Good morning. Sorry, I'm very hoarse today. Excuse me. Happy Friday. We made it through another week, which that means you get to pat yourself on the back because you did a good job. I'm alternate Jared. Thank you for joining me this morning. Today we are going to finish up Lamar Johnson's hearing and get the judge's decision because it did just go before the judge, not a jury. We finished Wednesday. Well, we didn't finish. We started the detective that was the lead detective in the investigation back in 1994 for the unaliving of Marcus Boyd, Detective Nickerson. We saw Judge Mason get pretty aggressive with him on his questions to the detective of how was the lineup made? How was it composed? And it was composed of all young Black men. That didn't sit well with the judge. They were not all wearing the same clothes. Also did not sit well with the judge. They all should have been, in dark clothing. They were just in what they were in holding, what they wore to holding. Whatever they were arrested in is what they were wearing. The men that attacked Marcus and unalived Marcus Boyd were in all dark clothing and ski mask, I guess, is what they've been calling them. And he wasn't happy with the state's presentation of some evidence or lack thereof as well. We we saw him get pretty irritated with the state and toss her paper back to her because she wasn't answering the question and she was trying to avoid answering the judge's question, and it was irritating him. So we're going to pick back up today with the detective's testimony. We'll actually finish it up. Got about 45 minutes left of it, so not very long. And then we will get to the judge's ruling, and then we'll be done with this. We can stick a fork in it because we will be done. Good morning, Gabby. And good morning, Stormy. Hope you guys are both doing well today. Gabby, I know you and I were watching Jody this morning. I heard that they're only going to show the Zoom feed in the Karen Reed trial because a juror was showed yesterday. So people are not happy about that. Like, well, that'll be boring. I don't want to look at the judge all the time, which apparently that's what we'll be looking at if we watch, if that's all they are going to show. So that trial just gets messier and messier by the minute. So they were only going to do audio, I guess, but they have since decided to just show the Zoom feed. So good for them, I guess. All right. I've got this, I think, geared up and ready to go. If you're wondering why there's a llama on the thumbnail, or maybe you didn't even notice there was a llama on the thumbnail, it's because I sat here through most of the stream Wednesday and for 5+ hours until Gabby he sent me a message and had a screenshot of my thumbnail that said llama instead of Lamar. So I had to put a llama on the thumbnail for the last day of this, and that's why it's there, in case anybody cares. I caught this judge in a pretty good side eye. Oh, this is that judge's face. Are you talking about that judge or the Karen Reed judge? I'm just pointing all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know it was supposed to storm last night, and I was having a hard enough time going to sleep for some reason as it was, so I didn't get any sleep before it started storming, and then it just stormed. So I've not had much sleep. So you've all been warned. Today could be a mess, or might be perfect. I don't know. Oh yeah, yeah. That judge. I feel kind of bad because I haven't even taken the time to learn her name. They just her I, I don't want to because her voice is so annoying. All right, let's start this guy. It's testimony backup. Um, again, that's Detective Nickerson on the stand. We are coming back from lunch, I believe, where we paused it on Wednesday. And I believe this is Lamar Johnson's side um, questioning Detective Nickerson. But I caught this judge in a pretty good side of me. Not on purpose, but
So let's jump forward to the photo array that you showed Mr. Elking at the restaurant. How many suspects did you include in the photo array?
Total, 5.
5 suspects or 5 people?
Oh, 5 people, 2 suspects.
Why did you decide to put 2 suspects in the photo array instead of 1?
I can't give you an answer, sir.
Well, including 2 suspects is going to substantially increase your odds of getting an identification, isn't it?
I don't really think I thought of it that way, but it could.
We haven't been talking much about Philip Campbell so far, have we?
No, sir.
Do you know how many times Philip Campbell's name appears in Detective Bailey's and Jackson's report?
I'd safe to say none.
None. Up to this point, do you know how many times Philip Campbell's name appears in your report?
No, I don't.
Would you be surprised if it was 0?
I wouldn't be surprised, no.
just a reminder, Philip Campbell is is one of the people that actually confessed that it was him. He has since passed away, where Lamar Johnson was sentenced to life without parole when he was convicted of this crime. Philip Campbell pled guilty and got 7 years for man stuff, man unaliving.
At this point, you were telling Mr. Elking that you thought Lamar Johnson was a violent guy, weren't you?
Yes,
You were telling him that you thought that he was a killer, weren't you?
yes,
You were telling him that you suspected Lamar in connection with other murders, weren't you?
yes.
Did you think that that was problematic to be telling a witness that?
Not at all.
Stop for a second.
I'm sorry.
I think I heard correctly. You told the witness that other than what the witness might have seen, the person that you were thinking they, might be able to identify was a killer, generally speaking, a killer. Is that what you told?
I suspected him to be a killer, a violent individual.
Did you go any further and elaborate what types of people you thought he might have killed in the past?
No, sir.
And I think I see the question that counsel is one step short of. I get to ask it directly. Weren't you concerned that the witness whom you described as fragile could be so afraid that, knowing that somebody might be a killer, that could affect their judgment?
The answer would be yes. It could.
Right?
Briefly on the photo array. Did Mr. Elking identify Philip Campbell in the photo array?
No, sir, he did not.
And you're aware that Philip Campbell pleaded guilty to this crime, right?
I am.
So there's no doubt in your mind that Mr. Campbell's guilty, right?
He participated in the murder, yes, sir.
But Mr. Elking was unable
Well,
to identify him in the photo array, isn't that correct?
My reply would be, I wouldn't expect an innocent man to plead guilty to a murder.
But Mr. Elking was unable to identify Philip Campbell in the photo array.
Yes, sir,
Couldn't
that's
speak
correct.
there. So after the photo array, you sought and obtained an arrest warrant for Mr. Johnson, correct?
Wanted warrant?
Wanted warrant, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
I did, sir, yes.
And later that night, you picked up Mr. Elking to come to the in-person lineup, didn't you?
I did.
You drove him to the police station.
I did.
You were in the car with him?
I don't recall, and I know if you want me to look at the report, I will. If I went and picked him up.
Did you continue to tell Mr. Elking that Lamar Johnson was a killer?
I don't think we had much conversation after the actual meeting at the restaurant. There wasn't a whole lot of conversation between us.
After that conversation, Mr. Elking didn't want to participate in the lineup, did he?
Well, he said no. He said he'd view a lineup.
And you had him sit through 2 lineups, correct? And we went over this morning.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
So there was 1 4-person lineup with Mr. Johnson and 1 4-person lineup with Mr. Campbell, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's stop right here. Just a few hours before, you had literally shown Mr. Elking pictures of both Lamar Johnson and Philip Campbell, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were any of the other people in the photo array included in the in-person lineup?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Mr. Elking in the first lineup then had 3 opportunities to identify Mr. Johnson, didn't he?
Yes, sir, he did.
And even though he had just seen a photo of Lamar Johnson a few hours before, he still didn't identify Mr. Johnson in any of those 3 opportunities, did he?
Correct.
And I want to make sure that we're clear on this point, Judge, because there's a little bit of back and forth. You recognize this as the lineup photo?
Yes, I do.
All right. Because there was a little bit of confusion earlier, I want to make sure we're crystal clear on this. Did Mr. Elking identify one of the 4 men in this lineup?
No, he did not. Oh, I'm sorry, he did. Number 4.
Number 4.
Yes, sir.
So he identified this man right there.
Correct.
Which one of these men is Lamar Johnson?
Number 3.
Well, the detective was wrong when he said that they weren't all in dark clothing. Lamar Johnson, who he just identified as number 3, but Mr. Elking picked out number 4, who is not Lamar Johnson, he's the only one in not dark clothing. That would make him a little bit more to stand out to me but they were all in pretty much dark clothing except for Mr. Johnson's jeans or sweatpants in the 90s. Who knows what those were? Good morning. Good morning, George. I didn't know if you'd show up. I saw your comment. I was watching you earlier. I was just hiding in the back, staying in the shadows. You silly man, you. You and Gabby thought you were getting away with something. But I was there. Saw it all.
Now, as we went through this lineup, the first time it was purely visual, wasn't it? The first time it was just a visual lineup. None of the attendees said anything, did they?
Correct.
Then, so he was unable to make an identification after that first one.
Yes, sir.
Then, during the second lineup, each one of these four gentlemen stepped forward and said, "Get the fuck up."
No,
What did they say?
that was the third lineup.
All right. Let me go ahead. I think we've been through this a few times, but I will actually take that back. You're absolutely right,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Nickerson. I apologize. So,
Yeah.
first time, purely visual. No ID,
Correct.
right? Second time, purely visual. No ID.
Correct.
Third time, each one of these gentlemen steps forward, and each one of them says, "Get the fuck up,"
Yes, sir.
right? Including the fourth man, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
This gentleman said, "Get the fuck up."
Yes, sir.
And after hearing those four people, he ultimately identified this man number 4, right?
Yes.
Said both visually and based on what he heard, correct?
Yes.
Now, earlier, we kind of breezed over Mr. Campbell's lineup, didn't we?
Fair to say, yes, sir.
It was another 4-person lineup, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Campbell was one of the attendees, and he stood in position number 4, right?
Yes, sir.
He viewed the lineup the first time, kind of similar to this one. No one said anything that first time. He didn't identify anyone, did he?
I'm sorry, sir. I'd have to refresh. I don't know how many times Mr. Campbell viewed the lineup. I'm sorry, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Do you remember whether, are you saying you don't remember whether he viewed the lineup 3 times?
Mr. Campbell, I'm sorry,
Mr. Elking?
Mr. Elking viewed the lineup of Lamar Johnson 3 times.
Okay.
Now, I thought we were jumping to
All
Philip
right.
Campbell.
I will go ahead and have you refer to page 18 of your narrative. Actually, I should ask, would it help refresh your recollection to review the narrative? Do you think that would help you remember?
Yes, sir, it would.
Okay.
Page
I'm gonna go
18,
to Page 18.
paragraph.
This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th full paragraph.
At 10:18 p.m.
On number, page 18.
I understand that. At 10:18 p.m.
Yes, that paragraph right there. Read it silently.
Okay, I think I'm familiar with it. Yes, sir.
Okay. How many lineups were there involving Philip Campbell? How many different attempts?
Just one.
All right. You wrote this truthfully and accurately at the time. I'm going to read this out loud to you.
Now,
This lineup consisted of Philip C. and 3 other participants. Philip C. was allowed to choose his own position in the lineup. He chose position number 4. The witness viewed the lineup for nearly a minute without making any identification. The witness then asked Detective Nickerson if each participant could repeat the words, "Get the fuck up." Each participant repeated the words, "Get the fuck up." The witness again stood in front of the viewing mirror, visibly shaken. The witness then stated that no one in the lineup looked familiar. So I apologize. There were 2 different attempts at this lineup.
no,
right?
there was one.
One?
Nothing changed.
Okay.
He didn't.
Hold on, I'm a little bit confused. You gotta
I'll try and
clear this up for me. What I just heard was that the witness is looking at Elking, is looking at the lineup, and even after he said, or each of the people in the lineup said, get the fuck up, Mr. Elking said to you that he couldn't identify anybody.
Correct.
Did I hear correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the witness says, I couldn't identify anybody. What do you do from there?
I believe that Mr. Elking asked us to have them step forward and say those words.
And what happened after he said they said those words?
The witness stood in front of the mirror and he stated no one in the lineup looked familiar.
No one in the lineup looked familiar. What happened after he said no one in the lineup looked familiar?
What happened?
Yeah.
I guess the lineup was over. Mr. Elking we left the viewing room.
But Philip Campbell was in that lineup.
Is that
yes, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Was the defense counsel, to your knowledge, made aware of the fact that the state's key witness, when I say the defense counsel, I mean David Bruns, defense counsel Lamar Johnson, was he made aware that the state's key witness also had confusion in the second identification, where the other man who was supposed to have been involved in the killing, in fact we know was standing right there in front of him? Did that information get to the defense counsel?
Your Honor, I'm not a defense attorney.
If you don't know, you can say you don't know.
It was provided to him, yes.
All right.
On
So
page 18.
David Bruns also had the information on Philip Campbell's lineup.
Yes, sir, he did.
And to your knowledge, was Elking cross-examined on that during the course of the trial?
I have no knowledge of that.
Anybody?
I'm looking right now, Your Honor. I recall that he was deposed in conjunction with Mr. Bruns.
No. My question was Elking cross-examined on lineup number, I guess it would be 4, with Philip Campbell, and the fact that he didn't have an answer. He couldn't identify anybody. And while on the subject, did Elking ever identify Philip Campbell?
Yes.
When?
After the lineup of Mr. Campbell had been finished, I took Mr. Elking from the second floor holdover to the fourth floor homicide office. The office was filled. We went into the bomb and arson office. Detectives Stidham and Bailey were in there, and about 30, I don't know how many seconds later, Mr. Elking made the identification of both suspects and provided the numbers, the positions they were in at the time he viewed the lineups.
Did you take him back for a redo?
I did not.
Because having made this complete switch of opinion, did you take him back for a redo? I think you said you did.
No, sir.
You just said, oh, okay, then let's move forward.
Yep, yes, sir.
Do you have a blow-up of the Campbell lineup, Counselor?
Unfortunately, I don't have a blow-up. I have a, small
Okay,
version.
you want to move to that in your examination?
Yes, that's fine.
Then I'll wait till you get there.
And here's the, it's down here. All right, Your Honor. 47. I'm approaching the witness with what's been marked as Exhibit 47. So, in addition to Judge Mason's points, Mr. Nickerson, do you see Exhibit 47?
I do.
Here's what I'm curious about. So, in the first lineup, Mr. Elking made the request that each one of the attendees step forward and say, "Get the fuck out."
Yes, sir. Correct.
Because there was an assailant who was holding a gun to his head who said, "Get the fuck out" to him, right?
Yes, sir.
And what you're now telling us is that Mr. Elking came back to you and he said, "I'm sorry, I lied. I knew that the person who said, 'Get the fuck up' to me was number 3. That's what you're saying? Is that
You're putting words in my mouth.
No, that's what you're saying, Mr. Elking told
I'm
you,
not
right?
saying anything. You're saying it.
Here's my question to you, Mr. Nickerson. After each just viewed a lineup where he supposedly knew that Lamar Johnson was in it and was the person who would have said, get the fuck up to them, why did he go to the Senate lineup and have every one of these men also repeat the phrase, get the fuck up to me?
Objection, Judge, calls for speculation.
Actually, we're talking to a police investigator. Appropriate question, overruled, cross-examination. You may answer if you can.
We've already gone over the facts. Mr. Elking was fragile. Well, Your Honor, I mean, you got to expect he's going to go to every extent possible not to get involved in this.
That would be one potential expectation.
And to press him any further would have been ridiculous. He's already made the identification. And I'm going to go back and say, was this the one that said, get the fuck up?
Yes. Did you?
No, I'm not.
You didn't think to do that?
I didn't think to do that, no.
Did Mr. Elking strike you as a particularly cunning man?
It's a con artist.
Con artist?
Yeah.
And so his ruse evidently was that during the first lineup, he was going to intentionally select the wrong man. And then in the second lineup, instead of intentionally selecting the wrong man again, he was just going to pick no one. That was his ruse?
You got to ask him. That's asking me to come to a conclusion.
You didn't ask him that?
No.
When he told you he was a liar.
He what?
He told you he was a liar.
He told me he lied.
So
Does
he
that
told
make
he
you a liar?
lied? You didn't think that you needed to explore that concept with him?
No.
Did you ask?
No, I keep rolling. I'll ask my question later.
Did you ask Mr. Elking to sign any sort of statement explaining his lie?
I put it in a police report.
Well, you did, but did Mr. Elking do it?
No.
You didn't think this might be a really good time for me to create a crystal clear paper trail about what just happened? That didn't cross your mind?
I guess now that I think about it, 28 years later, it would have been a good idea.
Because the entire lineup procedure had been spoiled, hadn't it?
It's been what, sir? I'm
It
sorry.
had been spoiled, hadn't it?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Dwight Warren, the trial prosecutor, didn't ask you to testify in the state's main case, did he?
I don't know what is rebuttal. I was called by,
But not in the main
so
case.
I wasn't subpoenaed by Mr. Warren. Is that, I'm asking, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to argue. So was I subpoenaed by Mr. Burns or Burns?
We can move on, Mr. Nickerson.
Okay.
Now, we've also gone over the fact that Mr. Johnson gave you an alibi, didn't he?
Correct.
He specifically told you that he was with his girlfriend on Lafayette when the murder happened, didn't he?
Yes.
So what did his girlfriend say when you interviewed her?
I never got around to interviewing her.
Did you ask Leslie Williams how to find the girlfriend?
To my knowledge, Leslie Williams did not know Lamar Johnson's new girlfriend. This was not Pamela Williams.
Yeah, well, because Pamela Williams was Leslie Williams' cousin, right?
Correct.
And Pamela Williams had a baby with Lamar Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you think it was possible that one of the mothers of his children might know one of the other mothers of his children?
Everything's a possibility.
So you never thought to follow up with Leslie Williams to try and figure out who Lamar Johnson's girlfriend was?
And again, I'm sorry. I didn't have an address. I didn't have a name. So I didn't find that girlfriend that his alibi. I didn't find her.
Did you ask Ed Niger, Dawn Bird, or Christine Herman if they knew who Lamar Johnson's girlfriend was?
My reply would be that Dawn and Christine have met Nita or Anita on the Saturday night or early Sunday morning, and they didn't know who she was. Apparently, this was the first time they'd ever seen her.
So is that Anita Farrow?
I have no idea.
Is that the same Anita that's where Lamar Johnson actually says he was?
I have no idea.
Because you didn't follow up, did you?
Correct.
Did you interview a single witness about his alibi?
No.
Can you direct the court to the portion of your police report where you describe your investigation into Philip Campbell's whereabouts in the hours before the homicide?
I only interviewed Philip Campbell for 10, 15 minutes, and basically he knew nothing about the Marcus Boyd homicide.
But you didn't interview any other witnesses to figure out maybe where he was in the hours before the shooting?
What other witnesses?
Exactly. Now,
How long did you say?
I'll give it that this was 30 years ago, but you interviewed somebody that admitted that they were there. They admitted they did it. They pled guilty to it for 10 or 15 minutes and said they knew nothing about it. You didn't ask Mr. Johnson's alibi witnesses anything about his alibi. Like, come on. Yes, that was perfect answer. What other witnesses? Exactly. I mean, he's getting mad because he's getting frustrated because he's getting caught in his bad investigation. And again, I don't expect his memory to be perfect because it was so long ago. Sorry, I've got something. So I don't expect that. But this is awful. The judge seems very frustrated with him. Oh, so you just took Mr. Elking to a different room and accepted the fact that he just completely changed his mind and didn't question about him? Yep. Then when you get questioned about Mr. Elking, oh, well, he's a con artist. Okay, so why did you believe him? He told you he lied. Well, does that make him a liar? Yeah. That one's not a hard dot to, those two dots aren't hard to connect. You lied. You're a liar. I don't know. This guy is frustrating me.
So you interviewed Philip Campbell?
I'm sorry, sir?
How long did you say you interviewed Philip Campbell?
I'd say 15. I think it's noted in the police report what time I went in, and it started with Lamar Johnson, and then I went in with Philip Campbell, and then I came out. I think it's noted in the police report.
Were you interviewing Philip Campbell as a suspect or a potential witness at the time?
Suspect.
Counsel was asking you about inquiring as to his whereabouts at and before the murder of Mr. Boyd. Now, I couldn't quite tell from your answers if you did or did not do that.
Did I ask him?
Yeah, did you
Yes,
check
sir.
into his whereabouts?
I asked him where he's at, what he'd done that night, who he'd been with, and I tell you the truth, I don't know what his response is. He knew nothing. I think basically he knew nothing about I don't know if at that point.
He said he knew nothing. Obviously he did.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And did you, so you can't remember what he said, so I guess you can't remember if you followed up with anybody that he said he had been around or been hanging with or anything like that?
That night?
Yes.
No, sir, Your Honor, I did not.
I got some other questions, but I'm gonna wait till you're done.
Thank you, Your Honor. We spoke briefly about the fact that Detective Campbell conducted a separate interview.
With Lamar Johnson?
Lamar Johnson.
Correct, yes, sir.
And I just want to be very, very simple and clear here. You weren't present during their conversation, were you?
I was not.
So you don't know what happened in that room, do you?
I do not.
I want to talk next about William Mock.
Okay.
When you were investigating, did William Mock come forward as a jailhouse informant?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Mock,
Well, yeah, that's your description of him.
how would you like to describe him?
I define him as a witness.
A witness. Okay. Now, Mr. Mock wasn't originally from St. Louis, was he?
I don't know.
Do you remember whether he had a history of homelessness?
I don't know that either, sir.
And he materialized in this case after he was caught trying to break into a church van, wasn't he?
I have no idea.
You don't remember why?
I don't know what
arrested
he
in
was
St. Louis?
being held on in the holdover. I don't know what charges he was under.
Do you remember that there was a capias warrant out for his arrest from Jackson County?
I can't tell you anything about the charges or why Mr. Mock was being held.
You knew he was being held, though.
Yes, sir,
Right.
I did.
What did you do to look into his criminal history?
I don't know if I did anything. I mean,
Well, you knew that by definition, he had some trouble with the law, right?
at some point he must have.
Yep. So that's kind of a little flag there to say, maybe I should follow up on this, right?
Yes.
Mr. Mock originally gave his statement to Detective Jackson, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Is Detective Jackson still a police officer?
I have no idea, sir.
He ended up being a dirty cop, didn't he?
I have no idea, sir.
He went to federal prison, didn't he?
You're asking me questions I don't know the answers.
Objection, Judge, lack of foundation.
Well, in terms of cross-examination, the only foundation he needs is his good faith belief that it's true, which I'm assuming you do have that good faith belief.
Yes, Your Honor.
The witness has responded that he simply doesn't know. So to the extent that he wishes to prove this beyond his good faith belief, he's got to give me some evidence or drop the issue.
We can have evidence, but I'll just move on with this.
All right.
If the court wants, we're happy to give you the
I'll be looking to
necessary
hear it.
materials. In any event, was Detective Jackson or yourself primarily responsible for obtaining that statement?
Primarily, it was Detective Jackson. He spoke to him on 2 different occasions.
Now, let's move on past the lineup. The final witness you interviewed was David Colombo, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
And the basis for that was that Mr. Elking had described another white guy coming to Marcus Boyd's house just before the shooting, right?
Yes, sir.
And you thought that David Colombo might be that guy, right?
I didn't, I was told that.
Okay.
I don't know if it was Gregory Elking thought he heard Marcus Boyd the night of the shooting refer to the individual as Dave or David.
But Colombo told you he wasn't that guy, right?
No, he said it was him. Oh, well,
Yeah.
he said he was David Colombo,
Yeah.
but he denied the fact that he had been to Marcus's house on October 30th. He thought he was there the 28th or 29th.
And I'm about ready to wrap up, Mr. Nickerson. At the outset of your investigation, you interviewed Leslie Williams, who was the girlfriend of the victim and an eyewitness. That's pretty mandatory, right?
I don't know if she was an eyewitness.
Okay. But,
She seen something.
and so let's go through the rest of your witness interviews. Then you interviewed Ed Niger.
Over the phone.
Yep. You interviewed Don Bird.
Don Bird, yes.
Yeah.
In person.
You interviewed Christine Herman,
In
right?
person, yes.
You interviewed Greg Elking, right?
Yes.
You interviewed William Mock, right?
Yes.
And then you interviewed David Colombo, right?
Correct.
That was the full extent of your witness interviews, wasn't it?
Yes.
What do all of those people have in common?
Drugs.
Well, All of them are white,
I,
aren't they?
I never gave it a thought. I've never thought of it that way.
Did you ever attempt to interview any black witness other than Leslie Williams?
I knew of none.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So you get from Mock,
He says he knew of no black witnesses, but the woman that we saw testify, who was Lamar Johnson's girlfriend at one of his girlfriends at the time, they didn't interview her. And their only response was, "Well, you didn't tell them you knew something anyway, so it was her fault." He wasn't trying to say he was racist. He was just saying you didn't do your job. Now we get to hear what the judge has to say. And he is almost finished.
I should have shot that white guy, or worse to that effect, correct? That's what Mock says, correct?
Yes, he overheard that
Yeah.
from a cell. Yes, sir.
And you knew, from what I just learned, that Lamar Johnson's world had an awful lot of interrelationships with white folks.
Correct, sir.
You learned from Elking that some other white person had even been around, white male, to get drugs. Is that right?
Assumingly so, yes, sir. He came to make a payment.
And I'm assuming you know from your experience that all kinds of conflicts, arguments, battles, anger, suspicion, whatever, can circulate around the drug trade.
I would imagine so, yes, sir. I've
Imagine
watched it.
so,
I've
that's true.
watched it. I've experienced it. I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't occur to you the possibility that the white guy that he might have been worried about could have been someone other than Elking?
I'm
For
sorry.
issue other than
Mr. Boyd?
this murder?
Mr. Boyd? Is that?
No, Johnson. If in fact it's true he said that, did it occur to you that you needed to eliminate the possibility, considering all the white folks that were in his sphere of all this drug trafficking, that it might have been some anger statement over some unrelated case because he didn't give the name of the white boy involved?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm
You
not,
don't get that?
I'm not even knowing where you're coming from.
You don't get that.
No, sir.
Even though Elking was somebody that you believe that Lamar Johnson knew.
I don't know what you're asking.
Didn't you tell me that you believe Lamar Johnson knew Elking?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yet you also know that the statement that you were allegedly given, he didn't say, I should have shot Elking, I should have shot Greg, but instead, I should have shot the white boy? Isn't that the statement?
It's not necessarily, he might not have known Gregory Elking's name.
But you thought that was the truth.
No, I said he knew him. Not that he knew his name. Like, your judge, David Mason, I know you as judge.
But if somebody said, I should have shot the black judge, then you're going to want to do more investigation as to which judge they're talking about, wouldn't you?
I don't understand because according to Leslie Williams,
Right.
Greg was the white boy on the steps. That's been confirmed.
But Elking told you that some other white boy had come up for a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
How do you know that that particular interaction didn't involve something that made Lamar Jackson angry? And then he said, talking to someone else, man, I should have killed that white boy. How can you distinguish is what I'm trying to figure out.
I think you're saying that, I don't know what you're saying, Lamar Johnson knew the white David Colombo or whatever. and they had the problem, or I
I'm
don't,
saying you had evidence of interactions.
Here, I'll simplify it for you. You're thinking Lamar Johnson was there. You want him to be there. Mr. Mock says he heard Lamar Johnson in jail from 30 yards away say, I should have unalived, I should have never let that white boy live. You automatically made Mr. Elking the white boy. He's asking, did you interview any other people? Because there were so many white guys in his territory of where he was selling illegal substances. Did you ask anybody else if he was the white guy that they were they possibly the white guy he was talking about? No, that's your answer. You didn't. I don't know why you're so confused, and because you're trying to figure out where the judge is going and you can't. I don't understand this. I hope yes, we're talking about the dark side. The dark side, the white side. There's too many sides here. And he doesn't know where he's at. Still waiting for him to like rip off his Scooby Doo villain face. Be like, oh no, it was Mr. Whatever.
In a drug-related situation with two different white guys, and you get this one statement concerning that white guy, and I haven't heard that there was any attempt, and you correct me if I'm wrong, on your part to distinguish which white guy the statement was referring to.
so Lamar Johnson should have shot the other white boy.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Now
There's
we're there.
only one white boy that's a witness, and assumingly
And
you got
the
to take care of him.
And the other white boy that your witness said came up in close proximity to the event and interacted with Boyd.
Yes, sir. But he wasn't present when the shooting took place.
According to Elking.
Judge, you're throwing a lot of stuff out there.
I'm just trying to get answers in terms of what was and I know you probably can't remember everything, but I have to look at this thing and decide, was this a botched investigation that led to this man being convicted? Or was it an investigation found any truth and facts? Was the jury given just a piece of the case? Or was there an entire case that was kept from them because information wasn't given to the defense counsel, or the defense counsel failed in his duty to effectively develop it? I got to have those answers. Because if those answers go one way, he gets to go home. If they go another way, he may not get to go home. You see how important this is?
I understand, Your Honor, and I'm not trying to be pain, but the only thing I could say is there was only one white boy.
All right, that's what you want to hold to. I don't need to question you any further on the matter. I do want to ask you this, though, because I want to make sure I have that I fully understood what I heard in this cross. I thought I heard in this cross that I'm not looking at this big blow up here, that in respect to the lineup that included Lamar Johnson, the only direct identification that you were given was number 4. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And number 4 we can see is a black male dressed in all black.
Yes, sir.
And Lamar Johnson has on white pants.
Correct.
Then, and of course, Elking had told you the people who shot Mr. Boyd were dressed in all black, or very dark at the least. But I think he said all black.
Yep.
Now, I'm looking now at Exhibit 47. That's the lineup. I see 2 people, one in a predominantly white plaid jacket, and another with a Saints jacket and beige pants, khaki pants, right? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So there are only 2 people dressed in all black, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, Elking picks one that also is in all black, correct? Campbell? Or did he not? Well, he didn't pick anybody.
Right. Later on, he picked number 4.
Later on, he picked Campbell.
Yes, sir.
Who just also happened to be in all black.
You want me to answer?
I'm not
I wasn't
saying you
making
can answer the question.
the lineup wasn't basing The identification on clothing.
I didn't say you did. We're talking about Elking's identification and the degree to which it was reliable. That's what we're talking about.
Your Honor, if I may refer to the lineup form, or the
I'm
lineup.
looking right at the lineup. What?
I'm sorry, the lineup, the blown up lineup.
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Right.
And you see number 3, Lamar Johnson.
In white pants. That is correct.
Okay. If you look, we had this discussion earlier about the lazy eye.
That was from the photos.
Yes, sir. Oh, no, that's what the witness later says. I knew it was Lamar, or I knew it was number 3 in addition to the lazy eye.
All right. So
Okay.
the lazy eye turned it for you.
No. If you look at the lineup, you can clearly see there's 2 different eyes on Lamar Johnson. There's different. If you can see it, you can clearly see it.
Well, I see a little bit of a difference on number 4 as well, but we already dealt with that, and I'll take a close look at that picture that we took earlier. I'll resolve that matter at another point in time.
I'm just throwing it out there, Judge.
So the lazy eye thing, that's when you said to yourself, you correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, Elking's identification is going to be reliable because of the lazy eye thing, correct?
That
Am I with
added to his already identification in addition to the eye.
Okay, I was curious. Turn me to the page in your report where you said you noticed the lazy eye.
I don't think I said it. I was informed by the witness.
Did
But
you
when
say
you-
in trial
I
that you noticed the lazy eye?
after I looked at it, but
In trial, no, not
sir,
trial.
I don't know what
no, not this trial. The trial where Mr. Johnson was convicted.
sir, I don't know what.
Did
My-
you say that?
I don't know.
You don't remember if you said anything about the lazy eye?
I don't know.
Do you ever remember saying to Dwight Howard, "Hey, Mr. Howard, I noticed that lazy eye myself." Not Dwight Howard, I'm sorry, Dwight Warren. I noticed that lazy eye myself. Did you say that to the prosecutor?
In the trial? Or
At any point in time, talking with him about the case,
Your Honor,
whenever.
I don't know. I have no idea.
See, this was like a big deal in the case. You don't remember?
Sir, it's 28 years ago.
Did you, who was your fellow investigator in this matter?
Well, Detective Stidham, Bailey,
Stidham?
Bailey.
Did Stidham ever say to you, "Hey"?
Sorry, destructive was a better way to describe him than detective. I'm wondering, so looking at that picture of Lamar Johnson, if I'm wondering if they're getting lazy eye and like a wandering eye confused. A lazy eye to me is one that, I don't know, isn't open as wide as the other eye. A wandering eye is one that when you can, it wanders. When you're looking, this eye might be looking at you and this one is looking somewhere else. I'm wondering if they're getting those confused. I don't know, because I don't see where he necessarily has a lazy eye. But the judge is right. It was huge. They have made such a big deal about this eye this guy may or may not have. And then he doesn't even, I don't know. And I get it. I get it. I'll give him that's 30 years ago. I'll give him that much. But I'm not giving him much more.
I caught that lazy eye thing that the Elking was talking about. Did he say anything to you?
Sir, I don't know. I can't recall.
You ever see it in any report at all?
Is it in any report?
In any report by any officer confirming they noticed the lazy eye of Lamar Johnson. Any officer.
No, not that I know of.
And I guess that doesn't strike you as odd.
Sir, I don't know that any officer was looking for.
A dare. I left you a message in Discord and you've not responded. I need you to respond. I need to know if I'm looking at the right Jonathan Oddie or whoever you told me to look up. I don't have his name in front of me. Because the only one I have finding may not even be alive. But nobody can confirm whether he's living or not. If that's the same dude in Florida, if his crime was in Florida, he may or may not be living. Yeah, the one I looked up may or may not be alive and went to trial in 2018. But apparently it's been out since then. I don't know. You got to tell me more. Stormy, yes, his eye was drooping a little bit. I saw that too. But I also kind of wondered, I mean, it's slight not to be, there's no way you're catching that in the heat of the moment. Uh, to your head at night, all black clothing, black ski mask. There's no way you're catching that slight of a difference at that. There's no way. This all just is not good. It's not good.
A lazy eye. If they would have looked, they would have seen it. I don't know what they were looking for. We weren't looking to make the identification. We were, where Mr. Elking was making the identification.
You may cross. You may step down.
Thank you, sir.
I know it was a little tough on you. Appreciate
Sir,
your
like you
attempt
said,
to
this
be
is-
candid, because this is important.
I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patience. I don't know if they want these.
No, you can just leave them there.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, I was trying to save you from him taking out the mic. I was trying to save you from that, and it was too late. Stormy, they should still have to wait for him to go through his appeals process, I would think. Are you talking about the tattooed Joker man person that was just convicted this week? Okay, so the last witness is make sure I got the right Williams here. Leslie Williams. The Lamar Johnson side doesn't even ask her any questions because she had a stroke. She has short-term memory loss. They just come up and say, thanks for being here, basically. And they don't ask any questions of her. And so the judge doesn't ask any questions. There's nothing happening there. And that is where the state ends. So the judge then later just gives, basically, he tells both sides that he wants what he wants in their briefs for him to look at as he's deciding what is going to happen. And his decision took him 2 months to get to his decision. I told you today's going to be rough. Oh, and I'm trying to share a screen I haven't shared yet. I'm telling you. I'll do better Monday. Okay, so here is his decision. And then I have a little bit of information for you, just that I'll share with you after this.
Good afternoon, bailiff. You may all be seated. But I'm going to call the matter of Circuit Attorney, 22nd Judicial Circuit of Missouri, X-Rail Lamar Johnson. This is cause 2222-CC09375. Let the record reflect that counsel for both the movement and relator are present before this court. Likewise, relator Lamar Johnson is present before the court. Also appearing pursuant to statute is counsel for the Office of the Attorney General. I have already prepared my findings of fact and conclusions of law in this case. Runs, as you can see, quite a few pages. Indicative of, I don't know, is that thing over there with all the files in it? Yeah, that constitutes all the stuff that I had in my dining room since December. I can tell you it was not make family happy. Today is the 14th, correct? All right. I don't think there are any food stains on the file, so try very hard to be careful. Okay, I have just executed my order, and my clerk is going to put it in case net as we speak. Now, just to let you know, I need that. I'm gonna have to read the last page. I just realized that.
Oopsies.
Just to let you know how I went about this, the statute, as you all know, doesn't give the greatest deal of guidance as to how to proceed. However, it does seem to let the court know that an important aspect of what we do in handling these cases is we have to look at the underlying trial and just how solid that trial was, and then compare that to the subsequent evidence that might suggest actual innocence. Uh, Sometimes a good, solid trial might be hard to throw out, even in the face of might be pretty good absolute innocence evidence. You have to really balance the two. You want to take a close look at the procedures that were followed in the jury trial. You want to ask yourself as a judge, were the due process rights of the defendant adequately protected through the course of the jury trial? And if they weren't protected, were there constitutional violations of the kind in nature that would cause the court to doubt or question the validity or lose confidence of the actual legitimacy of the verdict? Now, that's a very interesting and I'll acknowledge somewhat ambiguous standard. It's one of those standards we judges know what it is, but it might be hard to explain. Then we're supposed to take a look at what comes up in our hearing. Are we seeing not just evidence of actual innocence, it has to be reliable evidence of actual innocence. Evidence that's so reliable that it actually passes the standard of clear and convincing, particularly when you compare the new evidence as against the quality of the underlying trial. Once you put those two together, you can come up with an answer as to whether or not a conviction ought to be overturned. As you know, all of you know, I spent quite a bit of time on this. And these cases are not easy, and they shouldn't be. They should not be cavalierly ruled upon. Some people said, why don't you rule from the bench? And I said, you can't treat a case like this that way. Well, why don't you make one ruling and write an opinion later? I said, well, to be perfectly frank with you, until I have plowed through the file, I really couldn't be 100% certain of what my decision would be. So whatever impressions I had at the end of the hearing, those impressions really were not the impressions that I could go on. I had to go on digging into the case, looking at and actually reading the entirety of the trial transcript, making judgments as to the quality, reliability, confidence that can be derived from the trial transcript, looking at the people who testified at the hearing, looking at the cross-examinations that were done by both sides, seeing if, and in fact, even my own, quite frankly, very strong questioning of the witnesses, to see if there was any shaking in the reliability of what the witnesses had to say, inconsistencies, things did not fit with the objective facts in the case. Were there consistencies from the day moving forward? Those things make a big difference, because in these cases, you're going to tell somebody, look, you got to stay in, or you're going to tell somebody you're going to get out. And obviously, the way in which courts handle these cases are of concern to the Attorney General's office, concern to families when you have victims involved, of victims, of concern also to not only the individual relative involved, but all those who are concerned about how these cases are processed and how they're carried out. I urge each and every last one of you to take your time in reading the opinion. Bailiff? Yes, sir. Could you put on the council table 2 copies of my final opinion, please? Yes, sir. After reviewing both the underlying trial as well as the entirety of the hearing, and you can read all the analysis, but for the reasons stated above, it is hereby ordered that the motion of the Circuit Attorney of the 22nd Judicial Circuit filed herein for the benefit of Lamar Johnson is granted. The conviction of Lamar Johnson in State v. Lamar Johnson, calls 22-941-37068, is hereby set aside and held for naught. Bailiff, this hearing is adjourned. All right.
There we have it. I think they made the right decision. I don't know what you guys think. George, I think I know what you think. And I also thought I was worth more than $4. I just thought I was worth more than 4. Yeah, 30 years. 30 years. I figured you'd think that was brilliant. So let me just quickly go through the timeline of things that he had to go through. So the crime took place October 30th, 1994. He's arrested November 3rd, 1994. Didn't take long at all. And sometimes I get it, it doesn't. I understand that. I agree, George. He did right by researching, and he was, like Gabby said, he was thorough. I do believe that. His jury trial was July 11th and 12th of 95. He was convicted on July 12th of 95. He was sentenced to life without parole September 29th of 1995. So then you get to, now we've got Philip Campbell, the guy who pled guilty to doing it. So Philip Campbell, so between July 95, September 95, before Lamar Johnson is sentenced, Philip Campbell, still awaiting trial, he starts sending Lamar Johnson letters in the city jail. They seize the letters with a warrant, and he described what happened and said it was him and that James B.A. Howard that unalived Marcus Boyd. Prior to his sentencing, Lamar Johnson then, which his sentencing was in September, he moved for a new trial based on those letters. That was denied, obviously. In the denial, when denying the motion, the judge in that said that Campbell had said he would not confirm the letter's contents under oath, and that Campbell's attorney said he would not allow his client to testify in the matter. As awful as that sounds, that's basically Campbell's attorney looking out for Campbell at that point in time. He was doing his job. So then we know that Campbell pled guilty to man unaliving in 96, got 7 years. Prior to his sentencing, prior to Campbell's sentencing, I'm going to say he executed his first sworn affidavit that Johnson had no part in Marcus Boyd's unaliving. Again, nothing happens. Campbell executed a second affidavit repeating that in 2009, just before he passed away. And James B.A. Howard, who we saw on this take the stand in this hearing, who was never charged in this case, but he's serving life anyway, so it doesn't matter. He's admitted to doing this. In 2002, 2005, 2009, also said Lamar Johnson was not involved in this. April 6, 1999, the Eastern District of the Missouri Court of Appeals upheld Lamar Johnson's conviction. In 2000, Lamar Johnson filed a pro se petition for a writ of habeas corpus in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri. Basically, that is saying that he is being held unlawfully with a violation of his constitutional rights. So that was in 2000. Took 3 years for that petition, for that to get denied. That got denied March 4th, 2003. Between 2009 and 2014, Lamar Johnson's attorneys, along with the Midwest Innocence Project, that's who we saw in court, they filed 10 requests for information about the payouts Mr. Elking and his wife may have received. It says the agencies they queried included the police department, St. Louis Police Department, and the city attorney's office for St. Louis City. I'm not sure if that's like St. Louis proper, what that means. They responded that no records existed. 2018, that's when the Conviction Integrity Unit that was newly created, began the review of Mr. Johnson's case, assisted by Mr. Johnson's attorney with the Innocence Project. July 19th of 2019, the Circuit Attorney's Office filed a motion for a new trial. St. Louis City Circuit Court Judge Elizabeth Hogan denied the motion. March 2nd, 2021, the Missouri Supreme Court upheld her decision. August 28th, 2021, Missouri enacted the law giving prosecutors the authority to move for a new trial at any time upon learning that a convicted person was either innocent or wrongly convicted. And I have to correct something there. The wording is the same, but it means different. I read it yesterday and it was kind of like the light bulb got screwed all the way in and ding, duh, is what I thought. The original prosecutor that we saw on the stand was not the original prosecutor that filed for a new trial. It was the city, whatever I just told you. Forgive me. The city attorney or the circuit attorney, the circuit attorney's office. They are who filed for the new trial, and that's who was told that it was untimely because they had 15 days to do it, and he had other ways to pursue his options, basically. Mr. Johnson did. I don't know what those were. So as soon as that law was passed, and so that's why they passed this law. So then as soon as that law was passed, then they filed again for a new motion for trial. So this actually took place in December of 22, which is, George, why they were wearing masks. They may still be wearing them. I don't know. It's whatever. He did not give his decision until February of 23. And the judge actually granted him a new trial on February 14th of 23. Also on February 14th of 23, the circuit attorney's office officially dismissed all the charges against him. So he was free at that point in time. February 16th of 2023, Mr. Johnson is told he is not eligible to get restitution from the state because DNA was not used to set aside his conviction. So he gets nothing from the state. They are working to change that law. I don't believe they have got that done yet, but something needs to be done because it shouldn't just take DNA. Excuse me. In January of this year, he filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city of St. Louis and 8 police officers, seeking punitive damages and money to compensate him for his years in prison. That obviously is not decided yet and will take a very long time to decide. Hopefully I have no idea how much he asked for. Doesn't matter. He can't get paid back for the years that he's 30 years of his life is gone. The prime of his life is gone. He can't get it back. He's missed watching his 2 kids grow up. And he's missed a lot. Can you imagine going to prison in the 90s and getting out in 2023? How much has changed? It would be crazy. So nothing is, the city and the police department obviously did not comment on his lawsuit. So I couldn't find anything new on that. And again, I have no idea what amount it was. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because he can't buy back time. So it takes forever to get these done. And that's why I'm always saying, like, you don't want to have to rely on your appeal because his first appeal was they upheld it. And it's very hard to get a jury verdict overturned. So it took all those 30 years, well, give or take a couple, to get done and to get a judge to hear him, to go through the evidence objectively, because I do think this judge did that. I do think he was fair. He asked great questions. And I do think he came to the right decision. Yes, George, it can help him to adjust to society that he's already having to adjust to without it. So I hope he's doing well because I can't, like Gabby was talking about the other day about being institutionalized or whatever. Was that the word you used, Gabby? I don't remember. And you talk about somebody that would fit, of being told when to get up, when to eat, when to do this, when to do that. That's all he's pretty much known his entire life at that now. He's known more in prison than out. So hopefully, hopefully he will do well out. Hopefully he gets to enjoy his life. Hopefully he will get some compensation for his time behind bars. And if nothing else, I hope this will change maybe some people's minds about, well, they can just appeal it attitude. And I understand it. I was that way too. And until I started watching this and how long, one, it just takes to get people to trial half the time. Two, when you start finding out how hard it is to get your appeal overturned, heard, whatever, so many people denied him everything. Like, nope, we're not going to hear it. Nope, you did this or you did that or whatever. This wasn't right. That wasn't right. There was no law. I mean, for them to write a law to change it so that prosecutors or their prosecutors could bring cases back before the court if they found something was wrong. And good on them. Good on the prosecutors if they do that. And hats off, because people don't like to admit they're wrong. That detective was having a horrible time on the stand admitting you screwed up. You did not do a good investigation. You just didn't. So if it can help people maybe look at it through a different lens that way, then I'm all for it. There's one more hearing that just happened, and I have no idea how long it's going to take the judge to come back. that I'm just holding on to it, like I told you guys the other day, because I don't want to do it now and then wait months and months and months and months for the judge to finally make his ruling, because who knows when that's going to be. So I keep checking. Then when I realize how long it took this judge, I'm not checking so often anymore because it's going to be a while. But anyway, so that's all I have for today. I'm glad that we were able to finish this up today. And I think we're all happy with the outcome of it. I am, anyway. So you guys all enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend. I'll see you guys Monday, and we will go from there. I have a couple things simmering in the pot for Monday. We'll see. I don't know yet what's going to happen first. So I got to see the time. Gabby, enjoy lunch with your sister. Everybody else, have a great weekend. Be safe. As always, make good choices, because like I tell you, I'll stream your trial. I will do it in a heartbeat. And I will see you guys all on Monday.